Welcome to the David Carmena show. Hey guys, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. I am totally under the weather today. I am under the weather today, but I'm going to try to at least get us in and talk about where we are. The debt. If I can continue, I will. You may see me sniffle, hear me sniffle a little bit, and maybe be a little stuffy. But we're going to try to unpack a bunch of these things that are that's going on, and I'm going to want to go back. It's something that we talked about our last show. Is what would have happened if we did not kick the can down to 2025? What would happen if we would have been forced to deal with this in 2024? It would have been part of the political campaign. I want to discuss that tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about, was it a good thing extending it to 2025 or not? Or not? But first, the president has his flowers. Let's hear him take his victory lap, and we'll talk about what's going on the other side. All right, here we go.
President Biden signing legislation on Saturday to raise the debt ceiling. The bipartisan measure passed by both chambers of Congress earlier this week averts an unprecedented government default. President Biden signing legislation on Saturday to raise the debt ceiling. The bipartisan measure passed by both chambers of Congress earlier this week averts an unprecedented government default.
The stakes could not have been higher. If we had failed to reach an agreement on the budget, there were extreme voices threatening to take America for the first time in our 247-year history into default on our national debt. Nothing would have been more irresponsible.
The agreement will suspend the debt ceiling for 2 years past the 2024 presidential election while limiting federal spending. It puts new work requirements on some Americans receiving food assistance, and in August formally ends the pause on federal student loan payments. But taxes on the wealthiest Americans or big corporations, a key demand from the White House, were not included.
Look, the only way American democracy can function is through compromise and consensus. And that's what I work to do as your president. To forge bipartisan agreement where it's possible and where it's needed.
For months, the president had insisted he would not negotiate on the debt ceiling. But with that June 5th deadline looming and millions of Americans' Social Security, Medicare, and veterans benefits in jeopardy, the president and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy worked out a last-minute deal.
I think we did pretty dang good for the American public.
The economy still faces trouble. Credit rating agency Fitch cites repeated political standoffs over the debt limit and says the U.S. is at risk of a credit rating downgrade, which would make borrowing more expensive and potentially send the stock market tumbling. Zoreen Shah, ABC News, Los Angeles.
All right. So the president rightly should have his victory laps. It was a bipartisan bill that passed the House and the Senate. It passed in record time. There were winners and losers on there were winners and losers on the bill. And so we covered on this show what was in the bill. Basically, the bill that passed the House was the final version of the bill. And here's the reason why. If the Senate would have changed any provision that was in the House, made any changes to what was in the House, they did not have enough time to have the bill go back to the Senate. They convened a conference, and they changed the language in the Senate version and the House version. They didn't have enough time to get that done to send it to the president for his signature before the drop dead date, the X date, which was tonight. So they didn't have time to do anything to the bill that was not part of the House bill. The Senate, it was basically a rubber stamp. Now, yeah, what they did was the Senate had a lot of amendments. At last count, it was over 100 amendments to the bill, but all of them was voted down. It was kind of an agreed upon wink and a nod. Can you see it? It was a wink and a nod, basically saying that, hey, you can make your amendments, proposed amendments to the bill, but we're going to vote it down. And you can get up and you can get your airtime, you can get your fodder or get your red meat for your constituents. You can have promises and campaign agenda, and you'll get to go home. You'll get to go home and say, hey, I fought the good fight. I fought the good fight. But my amendment to do anything to the bill, change the bill at all from the House version, was voted down. So it was a win-win for the Senate. The Senate was on board from the very beginning. From the very beginning, when McConnell said that default was off the table, we knew that the Senate was going to be a much easier lift than the House. And to be fair, guys, it's going to be a struggle stream tonight. And to be fair, the Senate was probably in on the negotiations that the House and the president was doing. They probably was informed before the final version of the House bill was finished that this is what the bill would look like, and we're going to have a limited time to pass it. So we're going to quickly put our concerns in the bill, and when it gets to the House, from out of the House to the Senate, we won't have to worry about anything, and we will quickly pass it and send it on up. And we know that was the case because remember when I told you guys about the energy bill, the permitting provision that was in the bill, and I said this looks kind of odd. Remember I told you guys that? I said this permitting, making it easy to permit on larger jobs, including fossil fuels. Remember I said something about that doesn't sound right. I'm going to put a clip in when I actually looked at that when we was going through these amendments. And I said, oh, okay. Permitting fossil fuel. You know what happened? Joe Manchin. That was the Joe Manchin exclusion. That was to get Joe Manchin on his side because he was trying to get this pipeline that's been stuck in permitting for years. He was trying to get that through. So here, fellas, hey, I think we were the only ones that caught that. I don't know if any other pundits, anybody else caught that, but we did here because it leaped out at us. My man Christopher Williams, he was here. He said right. We did catch that. Shout out to Christopher Williams, my number one contributor. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Doug, thank you for being in the house. He says, good evening, brothers. Great to see you. Glad you are breaking this down. That's right. We're breaking it down. Doug, I'm a little under the weather. I'm not sure how long I can go. I want a couple of points. I want to make a couple of points. I want to make sure that we're on top of this. because the sausage maker, the devil is in the details. So we had to figure out a way to appease the two wild cards that are in the Senate, Sigma and Joe Manchin. Both of those guys, while they're independent, well, Manchin is a Democrat on paper. Sigma is she changed from Democrat to independent this particular cycle, but they hold a lot of power. We got to get one or the two of them on board on almost anything that the Democrats want to push over the line, unless it's something like this where we need a bipartisan bill. So they put in that provision. I don't have any. I mean, we're just guessing here. We're just guessing here. I mean, I'm sure it was, you guys know what I mean. I'm sure it was a legitimate provision that needed to be there. You guys know what you know what I mean. But hey, he negotiated. He got it in there, and guess what? This thing went to the Senate. One day that House bill was on the ballot, brought up to the floor, and let the amendments begin. Let the amendments begin. I mean, it was up there, left and right. They would get up there, and I suggested we, whatever, and if we change this and this and that, okay, and then vote second, okay, all in favor, aye, all opposed, nay. On to the next. They were able to get that bill out of the Senate in one day, 24 hours. 24 hours. Got it up to the president, and the president signed. Now, one of the other things that we talked about, and I want to pull a lot of information onto this, a lot of time, because we talked about what would have happened. What would have happened if we didn't kick the can down the road for 2 years? What would have happened if we did not? We did not kick that can down to 2025. To be fair, it wasn't a full kick. It wasn't, because they did put in some measures where we can curb the spending. We could balance. They touted that some $1 trillion of savings in 10 years. They made it look on paper. That Republicans made it look on paper that we was cutting spending. So we had to make it look like a win for the Republicans. We had to. Everybody had to win. The best deal, when you compromise and do a bipartisan deal, the best deals is that it has to be win-win-win. Win-win-win. It has to be that. So McCarthy, I got to hand it to the brother. I got to hand it to him. Look, my boy has some grit. I didn't think he had it. I think, he's one of those pretty California guys. I have grown to really think that this dude who barely got his speakership had to give up a lot of power to get that gavel. A lot of power, including the no confidence vote. Any member with just one member can file no confidence and challenge his speakership. So if anyone in that Freedom Caucus would say, hey, listen, I don't want you to be speaker, they put it to vote. And if the Freedom Caucus held firm, old boy would have needed some of the Democratic vote. If he loses 4 votes, he's not the Speaker of the House anymore. So he was really negotiating on a tightrope. So to be hamstrung as much as he was, and still be able to, at least on paper, say that I won, this is what I was able to bring home. This is a Republican value that I was able to negotiate with them Democrats. Oh God, them Democrats. We had our bill. Look, we had our bill. We had our bill 90 days before they even came to the table. And I was able to negotiate with them. And look at what we got. Look at what we got. And to be fair, guys, he did. He did. Now, when you are a poker player, you can't show no tails. You got to make it think that, I was willing to possibly default on the good faith and credit of the United States if we didn't get something. I don't know. I don't know if he was willing to do that. I don't know if he would have gotten, pushed a little bit harder and gotten more or gotten less, but he did get some wins. He did get some concessions. Hey. You got to give him his roses. Everybody won. But did we win? Did we win? Did the American public win? Doug says that, what do you think about the IRS revenue service funding decrease? So that was one of those compromises, Doug. That was one of those, we had to give something up. Now, they got 70 billion, and they gave up 10, and then there's ways they can get around that. But at least they, again, on paper, the Republicans were saying that that's a win because we stopped the Democrats from expanding the IRS to go after all of everybody's taxes. It's the standard, Republicans' agenda. Let's face it, guys. They had the same agenda since I was a kid. Democrats are going to go after your taxes. They're going to spend like a drunken sailor, and they're going to take your guns. That's been their playbook forever. Now they'll add something to the playbook. They'll add a little flavor onto that. They will add a little flavor onto that. Lately, the flavor had been that, they cheated. They didn't win fair and square. But that's been their, we can see it coming. I don't understand how Democrats don't see it. It's the same playbook. It's the same playbook. We don't spend like the Democrats spend. Yet Trump raised the debt ceiling 3 times. Now, to be fair, we was going through a pandemic, and I got that. I can understand that. But to say that one party over another party, when they're in power, don't spend, that's not true. That's false. Soon as any party, both Democrat and Republican, get in power, all this balancing the budget, pay go, all that goes out the window. All that goes out the window. So how do we stop that? How do we stop that? And here is the lost opportunity. Here's our lost opportunity. Here's our lost opportunity. Because if we would have made it part of the 2024 presidential election, if we would have made it part of that, then everybody would have had to put their cards on the table. You would have had to say what you are for, what you are against, what you're willing to spend, what you're willing to cut to balance the budget. You had to say it. It would have had to be, it couldn't have been one of these generic, could not have been one of these generic, oh, well, we're going to pull money from out of a hat somewhere. Because we all know, we know what we have to do. Any sensible person knows what he has to do. Really. We're going to have to cut some of those entitlements. We will have to cut some of those entitlements. We probably would have to cut this defense spending. We would have to cut a lot of things out of the budget so that we can curb that spending. And guess what, guys? We would have had to generate more revenue. Somehow we would have had to generate more revenue, more coming in through the front door, less going out the window, so that we get more revenue coming in, we get less going out, and we hit the sweet spot. We hit the sweet spot. So what are we willing to cut? What are we willing to cut? Let's see what Republicans voted to raise the debt ceiling 3 times when Trump was was president. No preconditions. You're right. You're right. Nancy Pelosi could have drugged him through the coals. Could have drugged him. She did not. She did not. So, shout out Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi was tough. Was tough. Nancy Pelosi looked. Nancy Pelosi looked tough. She had plenty of experience. McCarthy is tough with no experience. That's why he's so impressive to me. If you set aside politics and what he was able to do, being the House Speaker of the House, you got to give him his flowers. Come on now, come on, guys. Let's see what else. It says everyone smash that like button. Oh yeah. Thank you, everyone, bodies. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for coming to the David Carmena show. I'm David Carmena, 20-year entrepreneur, mainly real estate development, but also some communications, political junkie. Can see how these dots, because I called it. As soon as I read that exemption for fossil fuel, I said, oh, Joe Manchin. I thought that. I didn't say it, but I thought that. I said, something's up with this. So we have the mortgage boss. She's saying, hey, everyone. Hey, thank you for coming to the show. The mortgage boss. Doug, and Christopher, my number one guy, Doug, mortgage boss, great content creators, part of the lead mastermind. Thank you guys for coming in. So, what would a let's go back. Let's talk about if we did have a presidential election, 2024. We have one coming up, but this was on the table. The debt ceiling was not kicked to 2025, kicked to 2024. Everything is the same. Everything. We suspended the debt ceiling. Military spending got a bump, but only could raise it 1%. Students still had to pay the student loans. And now we hit our limit. All those provisions are the same. Joe Manchin got his pipeline deal greenlit. All those provisions are the same, but we're hitting the debt ceiling again in 2024. You guys in the chat, what are we willing? We know we have to cut. We know we have to cut something. We do. But what are we willing to cut? What are we willing to cut, and what would we consider safe? Is it fair? Is it fair to say that Republicans would take the military budget off of the table? They would protect the military. Because, let's face it, that is their sacred cow. Do we protect the military? If we do protect the military, what are we going to give up? So you're a Republican. You are a Republican. What are you willing to protect, and what are you willing to give up? Mortgage Ball says, well, I guess interest rates can finally go down since they are done holding us hostage. Well, Mortgage Boss, I don't know. We had a really good jobs report that came in, better than expected. Now we know that everybody expected the Fed to pause. When they come out this next cycle, everybody expected them to pause. But that was contingent upon the economy cooling down, the job market cooling down. Job market came in at 339,000 jobs this last cycle, last quarter. And this last report. And unemployment went up from 3.4 to 3.7. So the Fed chair may say, hey, listen, we may have to go up another 25 basis points. So there's no guarantee that they're going to pause because of this job report being so robust. And for sure, they're not pivoting. Remember, Chairman Powell came out and said, hey, listen, it's unlikely that we're going to pivot this year. If we do, it's going to be end of the year, most likely the beginning of next year. So what analysts are thinking that he's going to pause, that was before this job report. That was before this job report came out. So I don't know. I think there's last I saw, there's still a 70% chance, down from 80, 70+% chance that he will pause. If he pauses, interest rates is going to go down. If he raise, even by 25 basis point. We don't know. It's a new ball game. I hope they do go down, though. I hope they do go down. Doug says GOP is not touching it's not touching the military budget. That is not going to happen. I was in the Navy. 11 years, guys. And that was way back when we had wooden ship. I'm old. Yeah. And it was a saying that we had and that was when the military budget was favoring not the person, but the equipment. So we would always say that, they have enough money for the bullets, but not our pay. Overall, I think that military pay has kind of caught up a lot better than when I was in there. A lot better. But guess what? They're not touching that. The Republicans will not touch that military budget. But if they're not going to touch the budget, what are they willing to cut? Remember, we got to get more money through the front door. And we got to curb our spending. So if they're not going to touch the military budget, and I mean real cuts. I'm not talking about, we're going to save growth by making the military only grow 1%. No, I'm talking about negative growth, slashing the military by 20%. If they're not willing to do that, then they got to get the money from somewhere. Are they willing to encroach upon the Democrats' sacred cow? Do the United States have a obligation to provide health care for the military, but then also Medicare, Medicaid, SNAPs program? We got to cut the money somewhere. We already been insolvent or near insolvency on those programs, many of those programs, for years. Now they've gotten around and said, well, we'll do a trick and raise the age of retirement. No. If we are serious about having a balanced budget, by the way, I think that the only person that balanced budget in recent time, in recent memory, was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was the only one that I'm aware of that's balanced the budget. Memory serves, he had a surplus. Little surplus. And then, of course, you got a Republican in and burn right through that. Burn right through it. But it's the Democrats, according to the Republicans, it's the Democrats that are spend hungry. That's not true. That is not true. Doug says Clinton had a surplus when he was president, his presidency. That's right, Doug. I believe he was the only one. And around the Clinton era was when I heard about this pay-go. I think that was the first time I heard pay-go, where you had to, every initiative that you did, you had to find some spending inside of the budget to do it. Doug says that they use that blanket term, non-defense spending. We know what that is. We know what non-defense spending is. Watch how they use that throughout the bill. That's right. It is vague, non-defense discretionary spending. That could be anything. And that is this bill that we kicked the can down to 2025. What would have happened if in 2024, and that's the point, that's my point. In 2024, if we did not kick it to 2025, in 2024, they would have had to outline what they was willing to cut in that non-defense spending budget. And I think that a lot of people would have had to face the fact that we would have had to rip that Band-Aid off. We would have had to rip that Band-Aid off. And that's my point. That is my point. Did we miss an opportunity? Did we really miss an opportunity? You get the Republicans come up and say, it was very effective. He was very effective. You say got up and had I forget who it was, but a representative got up and he had this, they put the easel up and had a couple of cards. And he was saying, about this bill and this spending, and he had a chart of the debt ceiling, and then he pulled the last card out, the last display came up, and he said this astronomical number, I think it was like 191,000 if memory serves, that this is what your kid would have to pay in his lifetime. This is his bill that is owed. Every person in the United States had that $191,000 debt. So they can come up there, both parties will come up and they will say, I want this, I don't want that, but really it's posturing. What are they willing to, if the Republicans wanted to balance the budget, what are they willing to spend money on? What are they willing to maintain? And what are they willing to cut? You got to do it. You got to do it. Democrats, same thing. What are they willing to spend? What are they willing to maintain? What are they willing to cut? Put your cards right on the table. And we missed that opportunity. We really did. Because they would have had to, the option of kicking it down the can down the road would have been taken off the table. They would have had to deal with it. Because we would have been right where we are today. Today was the day that we was going to run out of money. Today was the day we was going to run out of money. Yellen said, hey, listen, I got you. I got you until Monday. After Monday, all bets are off. So I personally think that if we are serious about that balanced budget, if we really are, then maybe we lost that opportunity. We lost an opportunity. If this thing would have been kicked down the road to 2024, we would have had the opportunity to really get serious as a public. I'm talking about all of us, guys. I'm talking about the Democrats, the Republicans, the independents, and everybody in between. Green Party. I mean, everyone. We would have really had to say what our priorities are. But you guys tell me. Doug said that the Republicans are not going to do anything with the defense budget. Nothing. Mortgage Ball says education. There's not enough money in education, but mama, it's not enough money. We got education. It's a tiny part of that budget. What are now the Democrats would probably try to keep education. They probably would. But that is so small. That's small potatoes. If we cut all of the budget, education budget, it would not put a dent. It would not put a dent in spending. It wouldn't even try to, it wouldn't even try to attempt to turn that curve. No, we need big programs. We need big programs that need to be cut or saved. So what are they willing to say? What are they willing to say that they are they're willing to save? Doug says non-defense spending will be rolled back to 2022. That's correct levels and will be limited to 1% over that's defense, 1% over the next year for the next 6 years. Normally for federal budget allocations 3 to 4%, that is correct. And that's how they got that false savings, Doug. Because what they would say is that, okay, well, I'm going to only let you grow 1%. We normally would let you grow 3 to 4%. So I'm going to add up that 3 to 4% for 6 years. And I'm going to add that all that. I'm going to add it up. And we're going to say on paper that we saved this amount of money. But we all know that in 2025, when we roll this can down the road, that they're going to figure out some way to undo that if they wanted to. We all know that. Doug says saving, spending. Let's see. 1 second. Savings. That's right. But everybody wants to save, but no one wants to say what is really need to give up. I think the only time I can remember where I'm going to have to do some research on this, but I only remember cutting the defense budget was when Clinton. I think, and that's how we got to that balanced budget with the surplus. I want to say that when we only cut the defense budget for real. I'm not talking about this future growth stuff, which is what they're doing now. They're saying that, well, we cut the defense budget because normally we would have raised it 3% to 4% over 10 years. So now that 3%, 4% on paper, that 3%, 4%, we're going to cut it. So I'm going to look it up real quick. 1 second, because I'm curious. I'm going to see if we ever cut it. When was the last time the U.S. cut defense spending in the budget? I'm going to see if we can find that answer. I only think that the only time that we was able to do that was Clinton. And that was the only last time we've had a balanced budget. Because something like that, it would take something like that to really, really make a dent. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can get. It would take something like that to really make a dent in spending. It really would. Because shout out to mortgage balls. Yeah, we can cut. We can cut the teachers. We can probably close a park. We can probably cut back on, some other things. But if we're not willing to really tackle the big stuff, Medicaid, Social Security, defense, SNAP, even though I think SNAP is, while everyone picks on it, I think overall percentage of the budget is fairly small. If we're not really able to cut that, we're not really being serious about that. It says that, let's see, I got a result. The most recent U.S. cut in the U.S. defense budget fiscal year 2021. I'm talking about real cut. Yeah, I'm talking about a real cut. I'm talking about a real cut. I'm talking about this fake cut. So I just Googled it, guys, and on the web it says this fake. So I think we missed an opportunity. I really do. I really do. Originally, I was going to say, well, we should make it not apolitical. On this channel, I said that we should make it apolitical. We should not really, the good faith and credit of the United States should not be questioned. And, it was just too much of a hot potato. Too many things can go wrong. But on second thought, I think that we missed an opportunity. I really do. It says President Kennedy, let me see if I can get. Yeah, it says, okay, I got some information on it. It says that, yes, the defense budget was cut during the Clinton presidency. In his first military spending plan, President Clinton sent Congress a $263.4 billion defense budget for fiscal year 1994, which was $12 billion less than former President George Bush had proposed for that year. This is the first part of a plan to spend $88 billion less on defense over the next 4 years than what the Republican administrators have recommended. That's right. So the something like that is what's needed. We're gonna have to. Back then they were spending 264, I think, billion. Now we're spending 888 billion. 888 billion on defense. 858 billion. 858 billion. So if we're not going to get serious about defense, about about tackling these programs that we all love and want to make sure they're solvent, are we really going to get, and we're not willing to raise taxes or to cut those loopholes, close those loopholes, because we clawed back the money from the IRS to go after the tax cheats. If we're not willing to do that, are we really willing to say that we're making an earnest effort to have a balanced budget, maybe have a surplus like Clinton? Or we just sorry, guys, I am under the weather. Are we just fooling ourselves? That is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that at least on this cycle, it looked like a win. It looks like a win. But I think that it was really a loss. we missed an opportunity. We missed an opportunity. But I'm an optimist, guys. Maybe in 2025, we would either have Biden still in office or a Republican candidate excuse me, maybe the new guy would really take this serious, because that congressman who put up that slide with that 191,000 burden, 191,000 ish burden that we're passing on to our kids. We shouldn't do that. We should not do that. We should figure out a way to make it work. We should figure out a way to make it work. So, guys, thank you for coming. I know that we're going to make it a little short one today. I am really a little bit struggle streaming today. Hopefully, whatever I got is going to pass. Thank you, guys. Please like and subscribe. And remember, I want you guys to always consider not at face value what's going on. Remember, these things have connections. Salute. And I'll see you guys on the next stream. Thank you. Doug, Mortgage Balls, and my main man, Christopher Williams. Thank you guys for coming in and spending this Monday night with me. And all you guys that are ninja watching, I see you. Please like and subscribe. Thank you again. See you next stream. Salute.